We have a pretty long agenda today, but we will power through the items. And what I'd like to do is we have quorum. I'm joined by David Rue and now Mr. Curran Price. And we have cards from one individual on all the items and general public comment. And I have a feeling we'll have more cards come in on other items. So let's go ahead and have Herman step forward. And Herman, you have 3 minutes, 2 minutes for your items and 1 minute for general public comment. And you may begin.
In any order, right?
Items on the agenda for 2 minutes and then general public comment for 1 minute.
So now that we're on the topic of Ralph M. Parson for $50,000 for the Latin America exposition, I say no. No, because Nuri Martinez had an exhibition last night here at City Hall in the Rotunda, and it didn't work out very well. And then I go to item number 6, Joe Busciano, the silver-tongued cop, along with Bloomfield, who doesn't realize it was the Jews that hung Jesus on a tree for the purpose of granting easements requirements for joint water pollution control, which no one really gives a fuck anyways. Then I go into item number 7, Summer Splash. But see, this is not slap, this is splash. You all know about SLAP, the temporary restraining orders by Judge Carol Bose-Goodson relative to submitting her application on behalf of one bitch on the Splash of 2017 grant to supplement the TRO funding for the Department Youth Aqueduct Sport Leagues. Hopefully they don't hire the Bel-Air teacher, the bitch that likes to fuck young 16-year-old kids. Awfully a big mistake. Then we go to item 8. Board of Public Works report to the authority of the Taylor Yard River Park. Well, why don't you build HHH on the Taylor Yard River Park? Because no one apparently gives a fuck where you live if you're homeless. Isn't it apparent? Don't you see that there's no community impact statement? None submitted. Isn't that fucking interesting? And yet you have 3 people here who've been reappointed to serve this so-called bullshit Arts, Entertainment, Parks, and River Committee. But apparently, I'm the one. Now let's go to general public comment that you will not and do not forbid or prescribe what advocacy is. Because Dean Judge Ferguson, under Dowd versus the City of Los Angeles, says, do not violate our First Amendment and our 14th Amendment. Such a statute within the condemnation of our First and 14th Amendment is not applicable to the City of Los Angeles. So dumb white niggers like Rue don't fuck with our community. It's a sellout, bitch. And then we have Mr. O'Farrell, but I won't talk about him because I was part of my Carol Bose-Goodson judge of the TRO-TMU, which is a temporary restraining order equals a what? Threat management unit. That's when those fucking cops come and harass you and take you to jail like they did to Wayne Spindler, for the record, over a fucking public comment card. And last of all, the bigamist Mr. Price.
Thank you. And for anyone who might be here for the first time at a public hearing at City Hall, let me just apologize on the previous speaker's behalf. First Amendment gives you the right to be ignorant, to be racist, to be hostile. It doesn't give anyone the right to interrupt a public meeting, though. And so that is something that we deal with on a daily basis, and that's because of our First Amendment. Everyone has the right to free speech. So that's what we just witnessed, as odious as it was. All right, so that's your first interruption, and you get 2 more warnings, and then you're out of here. All right, so our next speaker, we have other general public comment cards, and I believe this is the final submission for public comment cards. So we'll close our general public comment section right now. And may I please have Doug Smith, followed by Ofelia Ruiz. Please step forward, followed by Humberto. I'm not sure of the last name, Humberto. Hello, welcome.
Hi. 1 minute, right?
Yeah, Doug Smith?
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Doug Smith. I'm an attorney at Public Counsel. In February of this year, the City Council voted unanimously to decriminalize street vending. And with each of your leadership, this was done in large part to better protect our immigrant communities in the face of terrifying changes in federal immigration policy and enforcement. However, that ordinance actually only decriminalized Section 42. Under Code Section 6344, which regulates activities in parks, vendors can still be charged with a misdemeanor. This is a disproportionate penalty for vending, and especially so in our new climate. Under the Trump administration's executive order on immigration enforcement, so long as Section 6344 still allows for misdemeanor penalties, vendors may be at heightened risk for deportation. So we're asking, I know it wasn't on the agenda, but we're asking for leadership from this committee to initiate an ordinance to decriminalize Section 6344 and enforce those rules under the Non-Criminal Administrative Citation, or ACE program, instead, just like we already did for sidewalks. Just to be clear, this is not a conversation about legalization and permitting of vending in parks. That will come later. This is an easy and immediate step to better protect immigrant Angelinos. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We have Ofelia Ruiz, and we do have translation. Tenemos servicios de translación. Bienvenidos. Welcome. Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes, señores concejales de este comité de parques.
Good afternoon to all the committee of these parks.
Mi nombre es Ofelia Ruiz.
My name is Ophelia Ruiz.
Soy vendedora ambulante en Los Ángeles.
I'm a vendor in Los Angeles.
Hoy vengo a abogar por mis compañeros vendedores
I come to advocate for my co-workers, the
ambulantes
salesmen
de parques que aún siguen siendo criminalizados.
that are still being criminalized,
El concilio,
penalized.
el concilio hizo algo muy grande en febrero en descriminalizar a vendedores de las aceras, pero aún no tenemos nuestros permisos y queremos que este comité se comprometan en ponerlo en la agenda para votar y descriminalizar la venta en los parques.
Okay. This council made something real big in February, and they discriminate to the vendors in the street. But still,
Continue, because if you have translation, you have more time.
But still, we don't have permits, and we want that this committee compromise themselves in putting this item in the agenda so that you can vote on it, and do not discriminate the sales in the parks.
Yes.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have Humberto, and I want to say Yarzili. Okay, thank you. So please step forward, followed by, I think it might be Isabel after Humberto. Buenas tardes. Bienvenidos.
Concejales de parque. Mi nombre es Humberto
Two
Yauli.
minutes, please, for the two. Yeah.
Okay, good afternoon, committee, council members. My name is
Humberto Yauli.
Humberto Yauri.
Soy vendedor del sur centro del distrito
I'm a salesman in South Central LA,
de la Main y la 47.
in Main and 47th Street.
Pues vengo por el apoyo de mis compañeros de vendedores de parque.
I come to support, my coworkers, salespeople on the street.
Necesitamos el apoyo de ustedes, señores, para que descriminalicen la venta ambulatoria en los parques.
So we need your support so that you do not discriminate the sales in the parks.
Porque mis compañeros tienen mucha presión de la persecución que hacen las autoridades y queremos que nos ayuden en eso.
We want you to help us because all my coworkers are suffering a lot of pressure by the authorities in the parks.
Y a la vez también agradeciendo el apoyo del concejal Price que tiene con los vendedores en su distrito y esperamos continuar con su apoyo.
And also to thank Council Member Price that works in the district, and we would like to continue with your support.
Esperamos que tomen en cuenta nuestras palabras y por favor ayúdenos porque necesitamos.
I hope you take into consideration my words because we really need you. We need your help.
Y en nombre de todos mis compañeros vendedores, es un pedido muy urgente y y muy especial para ustedes, señores, que pueden decidir con el futuro de nosotros.
And in the name of all my coworkers, salespeople, and we want to ask you to please consider all this because it's in your hands.
Nada más agradecerles por todo lo que están haciendo y espero que continúen apoyándonos. Y nosotros lo vamos a apoyar a ustedes.
And also, just we want to thank you for all what you've been supporting us, and we also will help you as well.
Okay. Gracias
Muy bien.
por tus palabras y por venir
Muchas gracias.
hoy. Thank you. All right, we have Isabel, followed by Rusa Miranda, I believe. I might have said that name wrong, too. Okay. Okay. Miranda?
Sí.
Ah,
Buenas tardes, miembros de este comité.
Good afternoon, members of this committee.
Mi nombre es Rosa Miranda, soy organizadora con la campaña de Legalicemos la Venta Ambulante en Los Ángeles.
I'm the organizer of legalizing these sales in Los Angeles.
Esta tarde estoy aquí haciendo un llamado a ustedes a que puedan poner en la agenda el punto de la descriminalización de la venta ambulante en los parques.
This afternoon, I'm here to request you to put in your agenda this part of do not discriminate the sales in the parks.
Estamos muy contentos, concejal, que usted ha anunciado que en diciembre sale el primer permiso para la venta ambulante y eso es muy grande.
I'm very happy, council member, that you already had told us that in December it's going to come out the first permit to do our sales in the streets.
Y eso,
And that's very important.
y eso es muy importante para nosotros porque se ve el compromiso.
And this is very important for us because we can see the compromise.
Y lo que queremos es que pongan en la agenda. Es algo muy serio cómo son perseguidos, criminalizados y atacados vendedores ambulantes.
And what we really would like is that you put in the agenda this item because it's really very bad, very terrible how all these vendors in the streets are being persecuted, and being damaged.
Y sobre todo, lo que nos empuja más a luchar por los vendedores es porque sentimos y sabemos que ustedes no están en línea con las leyes antiinmigrantes que se están viviendo en este país.
And what pushes us more to do this is that we know that you do not agree with the immigration laws that are in this country.
Y esperamos en su buena voluntad.
And we hope you have a good will to do this.
thank you so much.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. All right, that completes the public comment cards for the day. Public comment is closed. Colleagues, what I'd like to do is, if there are, without objections, take items 2, 5, 6, 7, 10, and 11 on consent. That's items 2, 5, 6, 7, 10, and 11 on consent. Without objection? Sure. All right. That shall be the order. What I'd like to do now is take items 1, 3, and 4 together, and I'd like to welcome up the Honorable Rita Walters. Former councilwoman of the 9th District, who is now a Board of Library Commissioner. Welcome.
And
It's great to
Council
have you
District
here.
4 resident, please.
Oh, and a Council District 4 resident. Okay.
Not so loud, not so loud.
All right. Well, to get from 4 to 9, you have to go through 13. So we all have part of you. And I'd like to also bring up Goulet Colado, a friend of mine, who is El Pueblo, and also Mr. Robert Vincent from El Pueblo. Welcome, all three of you. Hello, hello. Welcome.
Council members.
First of all, thank you all for serving on our commissions. I don't need to tell you, none of us need to tell you the importance of active volunteers to help make this city work. And so we really do thank you for your volunteer service on these commissions. And with that, it's all reappointments. my question is, what inspires you to continue serving, and what objectives would you like to see move forward on the commissions that you serve on? Ms. Walters?
Well, I have served on there since shortly after my term of office on the council ended. I always loved library books and libraries, and so I'm quite satisfied with the opportunity to serve on such a committee as the Library Commission. And I welcome all of you to the council, and I hope that you enjoy your work as much as I enjoyed mine, and have the opportunity to work with people who are as involved in their districts as you are in yours. And I'm very pleased to see each and every one of you there. And if I can ever be helpful, and Councilman Ryo is my council person now. Although
I'll be your backup. Don't worry.
a couple weeks ago, I was at the 9th CD's Jazz
Festival, right? That you helped put on the map. Thank you.
Yes, that was our baby, and it's grown and grown and grown, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So, if there's any way I can be helpful to you or anybody else, please don't hesitate to give me a call.
Well, you've left quite the legacy, and you're an inspiration. I think you always were. When you served on the city council, you were always an inspiration for me. Way back in the day when I had no idea, no clue that I would one day be sitting here. So you've always been a source of inspiration, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
And before I move on, I neglected to have Mr. Sutton Willis read the items.
No problem, sir. Item
We're
number
just so excited today.
I was so excited.
Exactly. Item number 1, a communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Ms. Rita Walters to the Board of Library Commissioners for the term ending June 30, 2022. Item number 3, communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Ms. Goulet to the El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historic Monument for the term ending June 30, 2021. Item number 4, communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Mr. Robert Vinson to the El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historical Monument for the term ending June 30, 2021.
Shall I go next?
Yeah, please.
Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be here. My name is Goulet. I was fortunate to join El Pueblo last November, but unfortunately could not join you at that point. I have also had the very great fortune to dedicate my professional career in community engagement and opportunities like this to address the committee and city council, and now to be part of that process has been really wonderful. And for as much as I can continue that and to cultivate that kind of engagement throughout the city, I welcome that opportunity. And with El Pueblo in general, as I've gotten to know the historical monument over the past few months, I'm really looking forward to making it very much a gateway to the city of Los Angeles, and have it be welcoming to all people, not just residents, but visitors to the city of LA as we continue to grow and welcome international events to our region.
Terrific. Thank you. Mr. Vinson.
Thank you, City Council members. I want to also say Gurley has been a new addition to the commission. She's been just awesome. I really feel privileged to be able to continue enhancing what is the city's greatest piece, both literally and as far as real estate is concerned and its history of living history in Los Angeles. In doing so, I really want to focus as president of the commission in enlivening several tens of thousands of square feet of space that in El Pueblo that has not been seen daylight for decades, and that has been denied access to the public, and actually has been denied the revenue of city, the benefit of the revenue through rentals to the city. And so I look forward to working with everybody, and especially the commission, in bringing those spaces into public view.
Terrific. And I know,
I'm sorry, if I just cut in.
Yeah.
These are spaces that that just aren't being used, or were closed off, or going to be renovated, or what's specifically what you're talking about?
Yes, all of the above. In particular, there's a powerhouse that was the original, not red car, but I believe it was the yellow car before that. It's powerhouse number 1. It's a cavernous, gorgeous space. There's a space below Italian Hall that has some remarkable mosaic tile and ironwork. And there's a lot of other little great spaces that I'd like to see people taking advantage of, whether it be a nonprofit organization or a business that brings people, even more people, to El Pueblo.
and that's kind of where I was going to go as well. I know you've been very active on the Italian American Heritage Museum, and you've been active on the commission for a while. In terms of those spaces that you're talking about, so city-owned spaces.
Yes.
Do you see any reason why we couldn't do an RFP and get someone in there?
You are speaking my language. No, there is no reason. And it'd be great if the council could reiterate that.
Okay. I know I've talked about other ideas in the past, and so, all right, well, that's terrific. That's something to look into for sure. And has this been discussed on the commission in meetings?
Yes, it has. It has.
Okay.
But we're part of bureaucracy, so.
All right. That's the plus side here. You're all part of bureaucracy now. Doesn't mean it has to move slow, though.
Yeah.
It can move faster.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Walters, any opportunity you see for the library system moving forward?
Oh, I always see an opportunity to move forward, and the library is not exempt from that. We have a wonderful library in the city of Los Angeles with branches all over the place, and such well-stocked. People really support their libraries. And we have a good library foundation that helps to raise money for the library and puts on special programs and fundraisers. So I'm very pleased, and I know that in the future years it's going to go forward and become even stronger than it is today, and reach more people than it reaches today. But people love the library. They love going to the library. My son, my oldest son, David, is here with me today. He goes to library meetings with me. He enjoys the library. So we appreciate that it's there, not only just for him, but for lots of young people and older people as well.
Well, there's never been a more important time to provide a safe environment so people can learn more.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Ms. Collado, any ideas moving forward for El Pueblo?
Lots of ideas. There are lots of things on the table at this point with the renovations of Union Station. There's a lot of opportunity for collaboration just in that little corner of downtown. And at this point, a lot of them are in conversation, but really in partnership with the vendors who have been at El Pueblo for quite some time. And I think over the past few months, that has been very enriching to see that exchange, because I have not often seen that in some of the community work that I've done. So again, just kind of continuing that and piggybacking on what Commissioner Vincent said about activating spaces that have not been activated, there's a lot of opportunity on the table and furthering collaborations with different entities in the city. So I look forward to that.
Terrific. Thank you. Colleagues, Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could just comment. Thank you so much, Commissioner Collado, for serving. It's great to see new blood in our commission, and look forward to all your new ideas. And to Commissioner Robert Vincent, I just can't tell you, you're still the chairman
I am.
of the board, of the commission, and I just can't tell you how helpful, and when you said earlier that now he's part of the bureaucracy, actually he is chopping it up. When I ask him a question about something, and every time I see him, he follows up with me. He said, "So what can I do? Where is that? How can I move it further?" So I just really thank your leadership and your chairmanship on the El Pueblo board, because it's instrumental. And with new board members and all the ideas that you guys have, anything we could do to support, because that is a gem. It is the founding of the city of Los Angeles. It is one of our root places. And love your vision on it, and I hope we could do more there. And of course, to Commissioner, not just because you're a community leader in my district and you live in Council District 4, but libraries is something that's near and dear to me. Before running for office, I did also serve on the LA County Library Foundation as well. And we used to always sit there and say, "Oh my gosh, look at the LA City Library. Look at all that they're doing. Look at their foundation." And it was a role model. And no surprise, with your leadership, Councilwoman, I could see why it's going in the right direction. And these days, a library, I'm so amazed. I'm so proud of our libraries, because it's not just a library. It's a community center. It's a senior center. It's an immigration center. It is literally, you guys have gone above and beyond any expectation of what we traditionally think a library is. So I'm glad your stewardship is there and your leadership is there to help guide it in the right direction. So thank you, Councilman Walters.
I too want to just thank all of you for stepping up to the plate and serving and continuing to serve. It's an awesome responsibility you have, and we know that you take it all very seriously. Special shout out to Councilwoman and the Library Commission. We know how important libraries are. I went to Normandy Avenue Elementary School, and so I used to go to Vermont Square right around the corner. And libraries continue to be a real look into the world. It's a way for kids and adults to kind of understand the world around them. And as my colleague said, the libraries today are becoming learning centers. They're activation spots, and they're places really to exchange and to get information. So we just appreciate your service there, and know that the libraries in El Pueblo will continue to be important resources in our community. So thank you all for your services. Thank you.
So I think there's no objection. We will move these reappointments forward, and you're on your way to serving another term on your commissions. So thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
And congratulations. Thanks. All right, Mr. Wills, that brings us to item 8.
Item number 8, a Board of Public Works report relative to the authority to request a loan from the Public Works Trust Fund for the Taylor Yard River Park in an amount of $700,000.
Thank you. And I think we have Chris Johnson from Bureau of Engineering. Do we have Fernando Campos, Board of Public Works?
Yes, I've notified him of the item. I don't
Okay.
think he was expecting it so quickly.
Oh, okay.
I can go ahead and get started.
Sure.
With an email to him.
Okay.
Very good.
Does it
Hopefully
say
it's a
on
long-
my way?
Not yet.
Okay.
Very good. Well, as you know, good afternoon, Chris Johnson, Bureau of Engineering. As you know, Taylor Yard Parcel G2 is a 42-acre site that formerly hosted Union Pacific Railroad Yard. The site was identified as an opportunity area in the City Council adopted Los Angeles River Revitalization Master Plan and the Army Corps of Engineers Ecosystem Feasibility Study, referred to as the Arbor Plan. The city recently purchased the site with escrow closing this past March. The site is known to be contaminated, and the city is working with the Department of Toxic Substances Control to further investigate and possibly remediate the site to ecological or recreational standards. Now that the site is owned by the city is evaluating potential interim and long-term uses that may be consistent with Arbor. In order to accomplish the contamination site assessments and the interim and long-term planning, the city has applied for and received a State Coastal Conservancy Proposition 1 grant in the amount of $2 million. As this is a reimbursement grant, the BOE has recommended a loan of $700,000 from the Public Works Trust Fund to be used to front fund this work. Board of Public Works has adopted that recommendation with certain recommendations that are subject to council approval and are itemized in the recommendations. And I see Dr. Campos is here.
Yes, just in time. Thank you.
Timing. Any questions?
Well, do you have anything to present?
Yeah, I'll just add a quick snippet here. Dr. Campos with the Board of Public Works. Just relaying the message that the Board of Public Works has considered this item. We understand that the importance of moving forward with this Taylor Yard project. The board has concurred with the recommendations to move forward with the loan. It is going to be a temporary loan being reimbursed over a 2-year period. However, we will be working closely with the Bureau of Engineering to get that money back reimbursed as quickly as possible. The grant, my understanding is that it's going to be a grant reimbursable model, if you will, or schematic. And as soon as the money comes in and that money is eligible to be repaid back to the loan, we will make sure that that money gets transferred back to the Public Works Trust Fund as quickly and swiftly as possible.
And can you describe the scope of the work and the estimated total cost?
The total cost for the site assessment and the other portion of the scope of work is developing some interim plans and a feasibility study will be under the $2 million we expect. The site assessment portion of that is $1 million, and we expect that to be done within, by this spring. Mm-hmm. So once those two items are completed, we would be returning to council with recommendations.
So I think that this is, we have the grant coming from the Coastal Conservancy, is that right? Yeah.
Yes, that's
from the
correct.
Coastal Conservancy, so that'll more than cover the estimated cost for this scope. My concern is kind of beyond this, and that is we have other costs and other expensive infrastructure projects that we're borrowing against, or we're advancing funds from the Public Works Trust Fund. So I think the larger question that I'm interested in finding out, I don't expect the answers right here at this table, but in future meetings, is how are all of those monies going to be paid back as well? I mean, we have a $6.9 million bridge in North Atwater Village, right? That's coming. Right. So how's the trust fund going to be replenished after that's front funded?
And I can go into it
okay.
In short detail now, and then we will be more than happy to report back in more depth for other future requests, because we will be having others coming down the pipeline. It is becoming more and more difficult for us to say yes to these types of requests, because we do have about $27 million caught up in our Public Works Trust Fund as loans. Our total balance is about $124 million. We also have another pending $7 million request, so that technically would bring up our Public Works Trust Fund loan portfolio to about $33 million. That puts us at about 29%. Our policy is to be around 25%, no more than 30%. So we're only 1% away from that. So we are closely monitoring any types of requests. We are working with any requester to make sure that the monies get reimbursed as quickly as possible for us. So it is a cash flow issue. Unfortunately, there are some loans that are in part of our portfolio that were approved by our board then, and our then city council as well, that do not have a repayment term in terms of making interim payments back or repayments. So we do have ones specifically at the CAO's office for about $10 million without a repayment plan, and that loan is due at a 20-year period. We are now about 8 or 9 years into the loan, so we do not expect that payment to come back until about 12 years from now, possibly even sooner. We are working now closely with the bureaus and also with the Board of Public Works to make sure that we're having certain criterion or elements as part of a loan request. For example, do you have a repayment source? How soon can you pay that back? How quickly can we get a reimbursements back? My encouragement and my advice to our Board of Public Works is to approve a loan that's no longer than 3 to 5 years. That's kind of the threshold. Any loan that's beyond 5 years, then we're really holding up the monies for cash flow to fund other projects. The other thing that we're looking at is the project shovel ready. Are we going to allow loans to move forward when we think we're going to get the grant, but the project is not near shovel ready? So if there's a project that is ready to go, we know that we're going to get the grant, then this is exactly what we want the fund to be used. So we are closely monitoring it. We are being fiscally prudent. We have advised the board to move with caution. Once we hit to the 30%, we will start saying no to the request.
I appreciate the comprehensive response. It's very helpful. So we really haven't established a standard for identifying a repayment source before we front fund this money, have we?
We have now over the last 2 years, but prior to the 2 years, the loans were coming in with various loan maturity dates without any interest due or any commitment for repayments. Now we're saying show us the proof that the repayment is going to come. If you think you're going to get the loan, that's fine, but we will not release the money until you show me a grant acceptance or a grant notification form. Then we will release the money. Whereas in the past we were releasing it as soon as council approved the request. We are now making it contingent.
That's great. So, Dr. Campos, of the $27 million that we have essentially allocated from the trust fund for various projects, notwithstanding the Taylor Yard River Park, how much of those monies can be sourced for repayment?
All of the monies will be repaid at one point in time.
Okay,
it's
we're
just
confident.
a matter of when we receive those. For example, $10 million will come in about 12 years from now from the CAO's office. The Atwater will come in an annual payment over the next 10 years.
Do we know from where?
They're all sources of funds from grant. In other cases, we do have one or two portfolio that the general fund or the city's budgetary process has committed to a repayment source. In the case before you for the Taylor Yard, it's based on the grant. So we do require, and we are requiring now, proof of repayment sources.
Got it. Okay. Well, that clears up a lot. Appreciate that.
Hey, you're welcome.
All right. Gentlemen? Okay. No? Okay. All right. So what I'd like to do is approve the report, and thank you so much for your work on this. And that moves us to item 9, Mr. Sutton-Willis.
Item number 9, Bureau of Engineering report relative to the initiation of design for the United States Army Corps of Engineers Los Angeles River Ecosystem Restoration Project.
Thank you. We have the A team in the house. We have Gary Lee Moore with Deborah Weintraub, and we have, let's see.
We have Daryl and Mark are going to come up
Okay.
as soon as
I
I
see. Okay,
leave.
when we make more-
that
okay.
I'll depart and make room for that.
All right. Very good.
Do you need to read the item?
Are we good?
I read the item. Okay, great. Good afternoon, Gary Lee Moore with the Bureau of Engineering. I'm joined here with Deborah Weintraub, our Chief Deputy City Engineer, and I'd like to also acknowledge Michael Affelt, who's taking a well-deserved vacation, who did a lot of work on this report today. Today is another important step in the Los Angeles River Ecosystem Restoration Project. And today we're moving away from studies and we're moving into design and implementation of the U.S. Army Corps' Ecosystem Restoration Feasibility Study Project, also known as ARBOR. The Bureau has compiled a report for you with recommendations to proceed with the design phase, the first of many, we hope, and the report includes an attachment of correspondence from the Corps with a description of the proposal, as well as a set of documents requesting execution by the city. I think for me, the one sentence from our report that really gave me pause and excitement was, this project will be the first time that the Los Angeles River is altered by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the purpose of ecosystem restoration. And I think it's really, I thank the council for their leadership, and especially you, Councilman O'Farrell. It has been a long struggle to what we were able to do under your leadership and the council's leadership to get the study approved, and now to move to implementation, which is what we all love, is is someday seeing shovels in the ground and actually seeing some concrete removed. So,
Well, thank you. I always channel Ed Reyes, my predecessor, in this committee, and it's always easy when I ask myself, what would Ed Reyes do? It's very easy.
well, the council's been just so supportive. We appreciate that. Deborah?
Yeah, so just to, Deborah Weintraub, Bureau of Engineering, just to carry on with what Gary was saying, we're here because the city has been the local sponsor with the Corps for the study that the council approved last summer. And then the federal government, Congress approved it in December, and then President Obama signed the law authorizing the study to proceed. In recent months, we've been working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to determine the best way to kick off design. And for several reasons, the Corps is here to tell you about the reaches in the 11-mile stretch that we think is the best way to kick off the design. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mark Goulet, who's the project manager from the Corps of Engineers, and Daryl Buxton, who we've worked with for the entire time of the study.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members.
Afternoon.
My name is Mark Goulet. I'm the Army Corps of Engineers project manager for the LA River Eco Restoration Project. As identified in the feasibility study, this project is an opportunity to bring back critical riparian habitat to a river that has lost over 90% of what once existed. Because we have successfully completed the feasibility study, we are ready to begin the design phase in preparation for the construction phase. A design agreement between the City of Los Angeles and the Army Corps of Engineers will enable this design to begin. I will summarize on the following slides the proposed scope for the design agreement. But first, it's important to highlight that, in fact, pardon me, Mr. Gary Lee Moore stole a bit of my thunder here. It's important to highlight.
He always does that.
That we are proposing to change the channel for the first time since the flood risk management project was implemented in the mid-20th century. This is a transition from thinking of the LA River as a pure drainage system to one that incorporates ecosystem restoration opportunities. Therefore, extensive analysis is necessary to ensure that current flood risk reduction conditions are maintained and we do not induce additional flood risk to the area. Gentlemen, council members, I have the second slide here. Today we are here to describe our recommendation for the scope of the design agreement. Our proposed design sequence deviates from that proposed in the feasibility study. The feasibility study shows Reach 6 as the first design and construction feature. Reach 6 is the section of the river between State Route 2 and Interstate 5. It includes the G2 parcel. It's shown here. The design includes concrete removal for channel widening, creating marsh and riparian corridors, and planting built into the channel walls. While we were drafting the plan to design this feature, we discovered a few obstacles that caused us to change direction. First, the initial cost estimate for design was over $20 million. Due to expected limited annual federal funding for design phase, we projected that design could take at least 10 years. We did not think this was acceptable. Second, as was previously mentioned, Taylor Yard is known to be contaminated, and it is the city's responsibility to clean prior to construction. This remediation effort will take additional time. Therefore, we looked at changing the project sequencing, one that could complete a first design with expected funding constraints and where land could be available for construction. The alternate sequence we propose is to focus on step 1, a 500-foot section of terrace bank on the west side of the river just south of Main Street, and step 2, a restored wetlands and river connection to the Los Angeles State Historic Park, also known as cornfields. The design effort would include complete, ready-for-construction design of the 500-foot terrace bank section, long lead design activities for the cornfields feature, and a partial design of the cornfields feature. Following this design phase, the city and the Corps of Engineers will enter a project partnership agreement for the construction phase in which the 500-foot terrace bank will be constructed, and the design and construction of the cornfields feature and all other river features will be completed.
And just a quick pause.
Please.
The prominent bridge there, is that the Pasadena Bridge? Pasadena Street Bridge? Or the Broadway Bridge?
Broadway.
That's Broadway?
First is Broadway, the next is Main Street.
Okay, thank you.
These are our reasons for recommending this approach to complete design. It allows the potential for starting construction sooner, and annual federal funding is expected to be greater in the construction phase. The 500-foot terrace bank design will inform an additional 2.5 miles of terrace banks located in reaches 5 and 8. The constructed feature can prove vegetation survivability and verify water requirements. It is the first step toward the overall project's terracing, which, when complete, will be part of the corridor connecting major habitat areas.
I need to correct myself, council member, because my boss just corrected me. It's Broadway Spring, Maine.
Oh, okay.
3,
Oh, yeah,
Broadway
thank you.
Spring, Maine, sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I cross the Broadway Bridge all the time, and I couldn't recognize it up there. Got it, though. Okay.
Okay, council members, okay, continuing with our justification. The Corps considers the 500-foot terrace bank to have an acceptable risk for channel modification without more extensive design and modeling efforts required for other features. Of the terrace bank sites considered, it offers the best construction access, least infrastructure constraints, and is visible from Main Street. Finally, starting long lead activities for the Cornfields feature will jumpstart design and ultimately construction of this future feature. My last segment, the following is the estimated cost of work performed under the design agreement. A complete design of a 500-foot terrace bank in Reach 8, upstream of the Los Angeles Trailer and Container Intermodal Facility, is $4.1 million and a 4.5-year effort. $2.3 million of river-wide analysis that will inform current and future designs, and $1.7 million of long lead activities for the design of Cornfields feature, for a total design effort of $8.1 million. Please note that these are design costs only. The cost for construction of the 500-foot terrace bank is estimated to be $5.2 million, excluding cost of lands, easements, rights-of-way, relocations, and disposal areas. And construction is estimated to take 18 to 24 months. Thank you. And I'll pass back to Deborah.
So, council members, the city's role in this design agreement will be to contribute half of the cost of the design and to work closely with the Corps. The exact location of the 500 feet of terracing has not been determined. That will be part of our initial investigation.
Right.
We will also need to work very closely with DWP, who own the easement where the terracing will go, and also have a very active yard just behind that area. So in order to give public access, we're going to have to work very closely with DWP in coordinating that.
And Deborah, when you say yard, do you mean yard for storage during the construction or yard that's active now?
They have an active electric switching station that, as I understand, serves all of downtown. There are a lot of folks here from DWP who could probably answer you more specifically.
Okay. All right. And so, but we have the general vicinity of where the focused work will be. It
Right.
just has to be defined.
That's right.
Once the study. And as much as that's, a lot going on here, but without this initial design agreement and phase, then we won't have anything. There's nothing to do if we don't do this initial step, including the rights of way, permissions, any other land acquisition that might be involved here. Which, by the way, what other land acquisition might be involved here?
So the majority of the land where we're proposing to locate the terracing is owned by DWP.
Okay.
So that's why we really are going to have to work closely with them. When we come to the end of the cornfields, there's some property owned by MTA, some by DWP, and some by the city.
All right.
So it's all public entities.
All right. Well, that's
to the extent we know. There's some that were unidentified. There may be some private up at the cornfields, but the large majority is public entities.
okay. Well, those are big pluses.
Yeah.
We just got to get the public entities to collaborate.
Well, DWP has been a partner with us,
Yeah.
From way back. They funded the original
Right.
LA River Revitalization Master Plan. Right, they're funding the first $400,000 that's being contributed towards our city's contribution of $4 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terrific. All right. Daryl, anything to add?
Yeah.
Yeah, Daryl Buxton, Army Corps of Engineers. Good to be here this afternoon. Thank you, council members. As Deborah said, we've worked a long time, and it's exciting to be here at the closure of the feasibility phase and about to embark on the design phase. So, and I'm here to answer questions that the boards might have.
Okay, what authorizations will be required moving forward from the Army Corps?
For right now, what we need is for you and the City Council to authorize us to sign the design agreement. We'll be back to Council with reports on the cost to the city for what we need to provide, which is clean land, and we'll be back to request authorization to proceed to construction.
Okay.
The other thing, council members, if I could, there's a couple of minor corrections to the report I'd like to just read into the record. We had talked about the stretch for the terracing going from North Main to East Cesar Chavez. It's actually from North Main to Leroy Street, and that appears a couple of places in the report. Also, under the nearby projects that have a nexus with this work, I want to add the LA River Bike Path Gap Closure Project, which is an MTA project that was approved as part of Measure M, and it allocated $365 million to a bike path that will pass through this stretch of the river as well.
Okay. And the terracing that's envisioned, is that all accessible to the public?
Well, that's why we need to work closely with DWP. The goal would be that it would be accessible to the public.
Because perhaps right now some of it isn't, or maybe all of it isn't, so that would be part of the agreement.
That's going to be part of the study, yes.
All right, because that's why we want to get people to the river. So,
right.
All right, and does the estimated cost of this include future implementation areas? In other words, are you anticipating next steps with this one initial?
Yes. So one of the reasons that the design costs are what they are is that we're going to be doing hydraulic and hydrology modeling for the entire 11-mile stretch.
Okay.
Also, the terracing is kind of a pilot for 2.5 miles of terracing that were proposed as part of the feasibility study. So this, we believe the land in this stretch is cleaner than other areas. So this, as was mentioned earlier by Gary, what's exciting about this is we're actually taking concrete out, terracing the channel, and it will inform an additional 2.5 miles upstream, where we propose to do the same.
Yeah, and it is a first.
Yes.
Yeah. Terrific. Mr. Price?
Yes, question. What's the blue area that's circled there?
That's the LA,
LATC?
that's the LA container yard. It's a rail yard. It was included as part of the feasibility study, and it's circled there just to note that what we're proposing to terrace is just upstream on the other bank from that. It's not part of the current work that we're doing.
And you say the whole build-out is projected to be about 10 years?
The whole build-out of the park. of the terracing?
Well, the terracing and...
Oh, 10 years of design. No, the terracing we propose, we anticipate that the design and study work will be in about 4.5 years, and the construction will be an additional 18 months to 2 years. What was mentioned earlier about 10 years, why we didn't choose to start with the G2 parcel, was that it was going to be a much longer and much more costly design time. And at the same time as we're doing this, we, the city staff, Bureau of Engineering, with many others on the city, are pursuing remediation and build out of G2 for an interim use. So that's going down its own path.
Oh, is G2 depicted here? Or
no, G2 is much further. Actually, if Gary would hold up the Vanna White. Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's it, up there.
G2 is that pink parcel there. And where we're talking about is...
And this was the blue area that was...
Yeah.
That was the blue area. And then the terracing...
It's right in there.
...is right in here. This is the 110 freeway crossing. But this is the G2.
Yeah. Thank you. And that all has... I mean, that has a logic, as you just said. I mean, there will be interim uses along G2. And that's a much more ambitious sort of project in the future. And this is... much more scalable, I think.
Right, that is right. Yeah. That's correct.
Terrific. And I think it's great also that you're focusing, and I would recommend highlighting and articulating the hydrology piece, because of the concern that some people have raised for the flooding, et cetera. There's going to be concerns that people have when we start actually re-engineering part of the trapezoidal channels, which I think is great. But just so that'll be, I think, a real important feature of this study.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. Mr. Root?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for doing these updated reports. Very exciting project. Very much looking forward to it, and glad it will be completed in my lifetime, even though it's long. But just wanted to ask, and I know you're going to have a robust community input process, but can you kind of describe that as and during the different various steps when it comes to design element as well as the construction element, and how that's going to look like in general?
Start with that.
Yes. So, sir, what we that's in its initial phase, but working with Deborah and the LA River Works team, we understand and support the importance of that. So we've included our participation. We've included that in our budget, so that's. We anticipate we've budgeted for as often as monthly engagements with the public.
So we have a long history of participation by river stakeholders, and we'll work closely with the council office in this stretch to make sure that their community is participating. And there's another council district right across the way from the terracing. And they will be involved in the conceptualization, and we will keep them informed as much as is necessary.
Because I don't know if it was a couple of months ago or a year ago, you had the whole display of the rendering with the bridge and all of that. So for like public forums, how, a general public forum, not just all the different stakeholders that are currently working with you, when do you plan to have another one, or how often do you plan to have like open meetings? And
So typically we do it at each phase of design, but there'll be a lot of interest in this because it's the first time we're breaking concrete. So if we need to do it more than quarterly or each phase of design, we're quite open to it.
Great.
Wonderful. All right. So I have some recommendations, and let me first just let's amend the report as Ms. Weintraub articulated, making corrections in the report as per Bureau of Engineering, and then include the update with the bike path gap closure piece as well. So do we have that listed now?
I think
terrific, and we can get the language as well to Mr. Espinosa. And so, I'm going to recommend that we approve this report. Thank you so much. Great report. Thank you for refining it, and thanks for your presentation. So the BOE report provides a list of properties that may potentially be involved in the implementation area. I'd like to instruct BOE to map and identify by parcel number and by the reference to the obligated reach, instead of providing a list, the actual parcel numbers. Please make it available and updated for all future BOE reports. I think full transparency, and that'll clarify or clear up any mystery that this may have on people. Also, to instruct Bureau of Engineering to report back quarterly on the progress of the implementation team that you alluded to. Legislative support and appropriations strategy, et cetera, to this committee. And I also want to just highlight that I'm encouraged to see that EIFD, Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District monies are mentioned, because that really should cascade forward right as we're trying to identify sources for construction when we get these projects ready, because we are going to expedite that move forward in the coming months and these next few years so that we can have an EIFD off the ground. And this gives us an area to focus in terms of setting up an EIFD specific to these projects or to these reaches. So I really appreciate that. And then I'd like to instruct BOE to provide a source and use budget for future reports that involve design agreement activities along with construction. And then lastly, instruct the Bureau of Sanitation to identify opportunities for integrating water quality and conservation into the design process. I don't want to lose that opportunity. We had a nice wet year, but we had 7 dry ones before that, so droughts will come back. And so we can incorporate that value into the design and implementation of all future projects. I think that's it.
Great.
So without objection, that'll be the order, and we'll move this forward. And I thank all of you for your work.
Thank you.
Look forward to having you back.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Thank you. You bet. And I do believe that was the last item on the agenda. Yes, it is. So this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.